everybody. My name is Kate Aubrey Johnson, and I'm joined this evening by Louisa Foyle, and you may have been expecting Lucy Barnes. Now, Lucy is the co-founder of Lawyers Who Care, and Lucy's not here because she has recently become a barrister. She was successful in getting pupillage, and then she's recently become a tenant. And everybody knows that when you start out, particularly, you often have to deal with last minute cases. So that's exactly what's happened to Lucy, and quite understandably, she's put her client first and asked us to step in. So Louisa is joining me this evening, but we're also very privileged to have Judith Denton with us, who I can see has just joined the call. So there are two absolute experts in understanding the real difference between being a coach and not being a rescuer when you are supporting care experienced people. And so we're going to start, and I myself am a criminal barrister by background, and I've become involved in Lawyers Who Care because what I saw was so many of the young people I saw in the criminal justice system had care experience backgrounds, and I really felt that if criminal justice practitioners understood care experience better, they would be able to help support their clients better, but also prevent care experience people unnecessarily being drawn into the criminal justice system. And that brought me to Lawyers Who Care, and to help with Lucy and now Gemma setting up a brilliant mentoring scheme for aspirational lawyers who've got care experience backgrounds. And some of you will be our mentors, and some of you may be other people interested in how you best support care experienced people. So we're going to start with an icebreaker. And so if you can scan in this QR code, what is your definition of being a coach or being a mentor? So I'll just allow you all to use the technology with your phones, scan in the QR code, and then you'll be able to link to a web page which is hosted by Mentimeter, and you'll be able to contribute to a group definition of what we think of as a coach or a mentor. Louisa is monitoring the technology. Is it working?
Yeah, let me know if you're having any difficulties, but hopefully it should be working. I'm hoping, but it's working on my side, so yeah. If you guys have any problems, just let me know.
Excellent. Well, Sasha has said that she's submitted hers.
Okay.
So we've got one.
Yep. I've got it. Oh, I've got another one.
It may be that at this time on a Thursday evening, people are feeling a little bit shy and timid. So should we have a look at what we've got so far?
Yep, definitely. So the first comment says, a coach is someone who partners with others to unlock their potential, challenges their thinking, and empowers them to achieve meaningful goals through reflection, feedback, and action. Very good.
That is pretty good. I think maybe whoever that was needs to be actually delivering this webinar. I'll hand over to you. That's brilliant. Thank you.
The other one says someone who offers scaffolded support. We have another one which says support, guide, and mentor.
And we've got one in the chat actually saying an enabler and someone who empowers. These are all really good words. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. That's really great. Well, I think that's warmed up the virtual room, Louisa. So shall we now turn to Judith? It's a little bit early. We said we turn to you at 6:15. Judith, are you ready to be introduced? Judith is a phenomenal woman. I was lucky to meet her a couple of years ago, and she blew me away with her phenomenal power of advocacy to really advocate for care experienced people, and she's done so much to support them in the work she's done, and she has set up the Black Care experience, but she has also set up other organisations to foster the power of and unlock the potential, as been already been said, of care experienced people, and also act as a mentor. So I'm going to turn to Judith Denton to talk about her top 10 tips on being a coach or a mentor.
Marcel. Okay, can everyone hear me?
We can, yes.
Brilliant, that's fine. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're well and have had a great week so far. I'm looking forward to the half term for some of us. That's me. We're looking forward to a restful weekend. Hi, Kay, and hi, Louisa. Nice to be joining you at this stage of the webinar. So hi to everybody again. So I've been asked to step in. I don't have 10 tips. I have a few tips. And I've just come back in from an event. So whilst I was on the train, as I do, you know, you have your phone out, and I began to write down what I think is how to be a coach and not a rescuer. So I'll be looking at my notes on my phone, but actually going through them with you. So apologies for not having slides, but I'm going to go at a pace where I want you to take notes or write them in the group chat, and ask any questions you feel you want answered, I guess at the end. Is that right, Kate? Or at the end of Louisa's as well? Or whenever you feel the need, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, let's see how it goes. If somebody has a burning desire to ask a question, then let them chime in, I think.
Brilliant. That's great. So the first thing I want to say about how to be a coach or not a mentor, the first rule of thumb is to get to know your young person. Because when you get to know your young person, you'll know their characteristics, you'll know their language, you'll know their default language as well. And when I say default language, I noticed this with the young people that I mentor, that whenever anything goes wrong, it's like a domino effect. And their language goes back to, I can't, I don't think I'm good enough, I don't think this is ever going to change. It's that default language. So when you understand your young person, you understand their triggers as well. And then when you understand their triggers, you know that their language is going to change. For example, I know that with some of the young people that I mentored, as I said before, when something goes wrong, I know exactly what they're going to do. I know exactly what they're going to say when I meet them. And I normally know when things are not going to plan via an email from either their social worker or the college or the school. So when they come to the hub for a mentoring meeting, before they've even sat down on the beanbag, oh, you never guess what happened this week, Judith, and a whole load of negatives come out. But I'm prepared for that because I know their characteristics and I know what to say. So then I begin to build them up rather than rescue them. I begin to empower them rather than saying, oh, let me fix it for you. I begin to talk to them to help them, empower them to change the language about themselves. So that's the first rule of thought. Really get to know who your mentee is, or who that young person is, and what you think that they and the person you need to be for them. The next step that I would say is when they do come to you and they present to you an issue or a problem, I want you to sit back and let them talk about it from their point of view. And then keep asking them, be that BBC news reporter, why do you think that? Why do you think that? Why do you think that? Oh, really? Why do you think that? Keep asking them. Don't jump in and say, oh, and assume, even though you might know the answer, don't jump in, sit back and listen to them talk out everything. It's a way for them to hear themselves talking. Sometimes when young people come to me and I get them to unpack what they're going through, I will say, oh, really? Oh, why? And then I say, did you just hear what you said? And then they're like, oh. So even whilst they're already just telling me what's going on, they're already hearing themselves and formulating, unbeknownst to them, a solution of the way forward in their mind. So I'm not rescuing them at all. I'm listening and letting them hear themselves at the same time. When they finish talking, then summarize back to them what you've heard, but using their own words. Don't use yours. Use exactly what they've said. Even if they probably swore, you say, I'm not going to swear if you don't swear. Just say, I'm not going to swear, but this is what you said. Did you swore at this point? They're like, yeah, I said that. That's what I said. But you summarize it back to them, because then you are building that relationship with your mentee. You are empowering them. They don't realize it yet, but they're getting to know that you really care about them and you hear them. So you sit back. So the first point, if you're writing, for those who are taking notes, the first thing you do is get to know your mentee. The second thing you do, whilst you get to know them, get to know their characteristics, their default language. Then the second point is get them to talk through what the problem is in their own words, and you listen. Don't say a word. You say yes. They call it active listening. I think that's the word, active listening. You say, really? Oh no, did you just hear what you said? And then you take a step back and let them keep talking. And then the third thing is you summarize it back to them. This is what you said. And then you ask them that question, am I right? Was I right? And they're like, yeah, sure, you were definitely right. So they realize now that they're being empowered, but they don't realize it yet. They've come to you to rescue them, but you're not really rescuing them. You're helping them grow and develop to learn how to problem solve. So you're not rescuing them. Then the next thing you do is, after you have talked to them, summarize everything back to them, then this is where you jump in now. You'll walk them through any solutions. You ask them, so what do you think you should do about this then? And stay silent. It's great, because you're getting them to think about it for themselves. Because if you jump in, they will always come back to you to be rescued. They will always come to you to fix a problem. For an example, I have a young person who's just become a care leaver. Where she's moved to is not the greatest. If I was a leaving care advisor, I would ask myself, why have I allowed this young person to live in this home? There are issues with the place, so many issues with the place. If I was to tell you now, it would be embarrassing to know that a young person is living in this home. So I said to the young person, what are we going to do? And she was like, oh, I don't know. So well, what do you think we should do? Who do you think we need to call? And she surprised me, actually, because I really wanted her to get the message of what I was trying to tell her. And then I said, okay, I'll come round and then we'll take pictures and then we'll do what we need to do with regards to the pictures. I called her on the Wednesday to say, I'm coming around. And she said, guess what? I said, what? I've already taken the pictures and sent them to my leaving care advisors, my personal advisor's manager. I gave her a round of applause on the phone. I didn't need to go around and take pictures. I didn't need to go around and tell her what to do. She actually did it. She did it, and she called her she didn't even go to a leaving care advisor. She went above them. She went to the manager and said, hey, this is my living conditions. And I said, so what's happening? And she said, so the manager's come around to see it for herself on Monday. I nearly cried on the phone. Judith didn't have to go around and take pictures. I didn't need to go around and fix it for her. In all the years I've been mentoring her, finally the penny dropped and she was able to do it herself. So that's what I mean by just making sure that you get your young people to start to think for themselves. And the reason why it's important for them to start thinking for themselves, because the world that we live in, we can't always be there for them. They need to start thinking for themselves. It's called growing, learning, and developing and living in this wide, big world that we live in. So then you ask them, what are the solutions? Get them to think of solutions. Sometimes some young people start telling me the solutions and then they think, oh, that's never going to happen. Or my social worker is never going to listen, or my foster care is never going to listen. I said, you can't preempt the outcomes. Just let's think of a way forward. Let's think of the solution together. And whatever the outcome is, at least we've tried. And that's what you've got to really encourage your young people. Once they've listed their solutions, let's try them. They've got to try. I was at an event earlier on. I'm just coming in from an event, and remembered an analogy. You probably heard about this analogy of a mother eagle in a nest with her baby eagles. And these eagles is this nest now because they're too big. And I'm the mummy eagle and they can't stay in this nest. They need to go. So you one by one, she'd nudge them out of the nest, hoping that they'd find their wings and begin to fly. They begin to drop out of the tree to the ground. But before they hit the ground, she swooped down, got them and put them back in the net. And it was an exercise that she did until finally she nudged them out the nest, and they found their wings and they began to fly. It's the same with care experienced people or with anybody in general. You've got to nudge them out the nest. And if they're heading to the ground, swoop down and catch them again, give them more solutions, show them what to do, repeat what you've gone through with them before, put them back in the nest. All right, here we go again. Out of the nest you go, learn to fly. Oh, you've forgotten how to back in. Okay, we're going to go through the process again. And for how many times you need to go through the process, suddenly the penny will drop. My foster carers did that for me. I remember I was not a young person who tidied my room as a teenager. I guess everybody can smile and say that was them. My foster mum would come in my bedroom and she would be like, "What is this?" And she'd go off. And then she'd show me how to tidy my room. She just literally showed me and said, "Right, next week when I come in, make sure it's done." And it was never done to her standard. There was something always missing. And she'd just say, "Well, we'll go again." Right. And as she sit on my bed and said, "Where do you put that?" And I said, "Over there." "Where do you put that?" "Over there." "Well, where do you put that?" "Over there." So she already showed me, but now she was teaching me. "Where do you put that?" "Over there." One Saturday, she rocked up into my room. She opened the door, looked, and then walked back out. It was fine. It was absolutely fine because she had to teach me. She didn't come to rescue me. If that room's going to stay dirty, it was going to stay dirty. But she was like, "I'm not rescuing you. You were going to learn how to tidy your room." To the point that even when my friends come to my house now, they're like, "Is anything out of place in here?" Because in my mind, my foster mum taught me you've got to have a clean home, have a nice and tidy home. So it's teaching. You've got to teach the young person. Sometimes you got to show them, but not rescue them. So you're showing them. So when I say you're talking them through the whole process, the whole points that I'm showing you, yes, clean home, clean mind. That's right, Sasha. Clean home, clean mind. And when I say you are showing them the process, I'm not rescuing them, you're actually teaching them how to be. You're teaching them how to process their thoughts. You're teaching them from step one, how to stay silent, how to ask them about what solutions do you have. Because what I notice when I mentor them, when we ever have any group meetings, they are me to other young people. "So what do you think you need to do then?" They start to peer mentor because without me even saying I'm teaching you, they've sat and they've watched me and they've heard me, not rescue them, but coach them as how to achieve in this life that we're living in. Then after they've spoken to you, after you've said to them, list your options, get them to choose one. Just choose one. Yeah, don't procrastinate and think we're going to do them all. Give me your top 2 or top 3 or however list it right. Which one shall we go with first? And even if they think, "Oh, the social worker's never going to listen or the foster care is never going to listen," I always say to them people, well, if they don't listen, at least you've tried, because we have to learn how to keep trying in life. When they become older and become more independent and want to go out in this world and look for a job, you don't want them saying, "Well, there's no point in going to the job interview, no one's going to listen to me." So you're teaching them life skills by saying, "Let's try. Let's absolutely try." Because sometimes young people come into the care system, and when they journey through the care system, because they've been let down and disappointed so many times, they feel, "Well, what's the point? I might just sit here." But no, my foster dad, he said, "Disappointment is a part of life. You just have to know how to deal with it." Yeah, and I would have said it in a Jamaican accent because he really gave it to me in a Jamaican accent. But that's what we've got to teach our young people. Disappointment is a part of life. You just have to know how to manage it and move forward when it happens. So when you've talked through the solutions, with them, you've got to get them to choose one and then action it. Yeah, that's the next step. They've got to action that solution. You're not actioning it for them. You're walking alongside them to be their cheerleader and their coach to say, yeah, let's go. And if that solution does not work, we try another one until something works, because we've got to build some muscles in this as care expert young people. Yes, we have been let down in the past, but not everybody is here to let you down. Yeah, there are people who will really, really walk you through this life. We won't rescue you, but we will walk you through life because we see your potential and know that you can achieve. Yes, life is hard. It's not easy at all. If it was easy, everybody would be having a really easy life on a beach somewhere with some cocktail in their hands. But life isn't easy. But as my foster dad taught me, you will be disappointed in life, but you've got to learn how to pick yourself up and say, we go again. Then, when you've walked them through, you've got to understand that your role is not to control their narrative. You're helping them and guiding them to either recreate their narrative or create their very new chapter for the next pathway in life. Yeah. The care system can be quite controlling at times, always telling the young people what to do, where to go, where to live, what to do. No, you can't achieve. So as a coach and not a rescuer, you've now got to come into that young person's life and say, yes, you can. Or you need a bit more developing. You need to develop more in this area. Yeah, don't gas that young person up to think that they can do it all. Because then you're going to give them a false sense of security. They need your honesty as you help them recreate their next pathway. And that's what they need to hear. That's what they need to hear from you. I remember when I left the care system, I laugh now. And my mentor, who's still my mentor in my life, he said to me, so what are you going to do now? And I was like, oh, I could go to modeling or I could go on The Apprentice. I could do that. And he looked at me, he must have thought I was crazy. He said to me, Judith, come now, let's be be a bit more realistic. Not to say that I couldn't go into modeling, but he was like, no, I think he saw that I could do more. And when I sit back with my mentor now, he laughs and said, yeah, modeling, are you enjoying your life now? And can guarantee you say that I enjoy the pathway that I've chosen. So my mentor didn't choose the path for me. He actually said to me, what is it? He kept saying to me, choose. What's the solutions? Like I've said to you guys, what are the solutions? What do you want to do next? And I listed them all. Listed them. And at the end of it, exactly, be realistic and honest with encouragement. Yes, don't gas us up. Because if you gas us up, we have a false sense of security. And that can be very dangerous for us in the care system. It's like telling someone they can sing and then you know that they can't sing. That's dangerous. Sometimes we're watching Britain's Got Talent and you think to yourself, who's told that person that they can sing? Because they really can't. And then Simon comes out and tells them exactly what everyone in the whole world has been saying, apart from what their family is saying. And it's the same with us in the care system. You've got to be, as you are coaching us, help us to be realistic, help us to be truthful about your encouragement as well, and really just hold our hand and guide us through until the time comes. Oh, bless. Says I'm guilty of gassing my children up. They can't sing. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. So we have to really be, as a coach, I really would encourage you to hold our hands through this process until the time comes for you to kick us out the nest. Because what I've done with my care experience young people, when I'm mentoring them, I look at my phone nowadays and think, oh, so-and-so's not phoned me. And I think to myself, oh, bless. Yeah. I look at my phone now and I think to myself, oh, no one's phoned me. So they must be all right. And they are all right. And then when they see me, they ring me and say, and then when they do ring, they say, oh, it's my day off work. I'm coming round just to chat. And we just sit there chatting. I'm not problem solving. I'm not handing anybody any tissues. They've problem solved themselves, because I've learned how to be a coach and not a rescuer. And it's really important for us to learn, grow, and develop. Because if we don't, then we become rescuers for everybody else. And it's hard to rescue people when they don't want to listen. Yeah, if people don't want to listen, there's no point in rescuing them. But if you get them to hear their own voice, then they'll take their own medicine. Yeah. So those are the points that I managed to put together on the train, on the way to the event and on the way back. So I guess that's it. And I hand back over to Kate. You're on mute, Kate.
Thank you so much, Judith. That was incredible. And you've really illustrated with examples quite how different being a coach from being a rescuer is. And I think one of the aspects of this is really resisting the sort of instinctive reaction to a situation. Your immediate reaction is just to want to make it better and take the quickest path. And for some of for the mentors and lawyers who care, they're busy people. They may have access to resources. They may have solutions they can put in place pretty quickly. But actually, if what we're trying to make is resilient future lawyers, we need to give them the skills. Yeah, there's lots of accolades coming in, Judith. Thank you, thanking you for your talk and yes, you can read about the different paths you could have gone down. There are many career paths you could have taken, but it is wonderful to hear you share those sort of real life examples that can bring it to life for people. Now, does anybody have any questions for Judith? Because she has very generously given her time this evening, but I think we're going to lose her again because she probably hasn't even had the chance to have a cup of tea or eat something at the end of her busy day. So so we'll let her go, just with a real thanks from, I'm sure, echoing everybody in the room, that was really fantastic. And we're going to give a bit more structure to what you've said and build on it now. But thank you so much indeed. And several people are chatting.
Thank
you
you,
are a beautiful person. So you could have been a model, but we've been lucky enough to have you to be a role model for all of us and mentor us into being able to support future young people. So thank you so much, Judith, as ever, and thank you for your work.
And just to us, I was scouted to do the modeling, and that's why I said it to my mentor. But then I knew about the lifestyle of being a model, and I turned it down. I said no thanks, I'm good. So yeah, I'll leave it on that on that note.
It's never too late, Judith, is all I'm saying. Never too late.
Okay, I'll take that.
Have a lovely evening.
Thank you for joining us. Bye, guys. Bye.
And thank you, Judith. And before we turn to Louisa, who's also going to share some insight and tips from her work experience and lived experience, we thought we'd give a little scenario to sort of really put into practice the thoughts that Judith has just shared. So I think Louisa's got a slide for this. So here's just an example of where we might fall into the role of being a rescuer, and how can we make sure that we're actually being a coach. So the case study is, you're supporting a vulnerable young person who either has a job interview, or maybe it's work experience opportunity, maybe they've managed to get an internship, maybe they've managed to get a mini pupillage, but they've been told they need to wear a formal suit and they don't own one. What would you advise? And I can see questions in the chat. We'll come back to those in a moment. But has anybody got any contribution to what you might advise somebody who needs a suit fairly quickly? They don't have financial resources to call upon. They don't own a suit. What would you advise as their coach or their mentor? And Sally has put the question that we've just been given by Judith is, what do you think you know, what do you think you can do about it? Yeah, so could they borrow one off someone they know? What can you use from, you know, you're there in a role of, say you're there in a role of a mentor. What does your life experience enable you to help them with in terms of navigating the situation? Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. Where can we go to find one? There's a suggestion of buy them one and pay them back, or can they get a grant or funding, or a charity shop? Yeah, so there are lots of options that aren't necessarily costly. So there's charity shop. There are obviously low cost options like Vinted, like TK Maxx. They may be able to borrow one, but yes, Lorraine, you've got there are also organizations exactly set up. So Louise, you were going to mention a couple of them.
I know that Suited and Booted, they're a good organisation. They help care experienced young people with job interviews, CVs, and also suits. So they're a great organisation. If you go on to the Care Leavers Covenant, they also have a list of resources for care leavers. So if you have any young people that are struggling like with these kind of issues, then do check the Care Leavers Covenant or point them in my direction. I put my email in the chat.
And Alison has mentioned the charity SmartWorks, who may also be able to provide that. And we've also got, you know, other examples of creative solutions. So there, particularly if you've got a little bit of financial resource in your position as a coach or as a mentor, there's a temptation just to put your hand in your pocket and solve that problem. But it isn't giving what we've heard from Judith, it's not giving them the lifelong skills to be able to problem solve in the future. So putting it back on them, asking them what their options might be, and then maybe giving them a little bit of support to pursue them. And I think really what we're getting to is, you know, the optimal solution is not finding immediate finance for them. It's for them to find solutions that are available to them, that they can navigate, that they can call upon again and again. But as Louisa says, there's quite a lot of support in this sort of situation from Kelly's. And I think, in fact, John Lewis also have a similar scheme about providing smart clothing for care experienced people seeking to get into the job market or get work experience training opportunities. So thank you all for that discussion. Yes, thank you, Sophie. Timpson will provide suits and formal wear. So there are a lot of organisations out there actually able to help. And of course, if you put the young person in touch with those organisations, that they're there again and again, if you're not around, to rescue them in future. So thank you all. I'm just seeing that people are chatting, so I'm not going to just move on just yet. Thank you. Louisa's just put in Suited and Booted. So thank you very much. And I know that somebody asked for contacts for Judith Denton, so we can definitely put you in touch with Judith after this webinar. And I think there's also a comment about, you know, it may be that they don't have to wear a suit. You know, have they explored the fact that maybe they could go back to the organisation they're going with and say, you know, would a slightly less traditionally formal outfit, but something still smart, would that still do? So lots of different options to explore with them, but as Sally said, ask them what they think they can do is a really good starting point to ensure that you're not falling into that rescuer position straight away. And Shelley's mentioned the inns. There are definitely a few schemes that go on whereby solicitors and barristers donate clothes that probably they've grown out of. Perhaps they've got slightly larger in size and the smaller sizes no longer fit them. And there are beautiful clothes, and they're all available either for free or very low cost. I know the Kalisha Trust is one of the organisations, but I believe the inns have also done that. So yes, lots of options there. So thank you all very much. And so we're now going to turn to Louisa Foyle, who is a Care Development Officer at the Care Council, and her role is to change policies for care leavers across London. Just that small little task, which she does. And we're really privileged to be joined by her because this is part of what she does, supporting care leavers across London. So she's going to share with us some of her top tips and insights.
Hi, everybody. Can you see the screen? Yep. Great. So hi, I'm Louisa. I am a development officer for the Care Council, and I'm also care experience myself. I have the privilege of running a youth board every month with my young people. We're trying to work on a pan-London offer, so offers are consistent and persistent across London. So we've managed to get free prescriptions for all care leavers up to the age of 25 and 50% of trams and buses. Becoming a coach, not a rescuer. So as I said, I'm care experienced myself. I had my daughter when I was 15. I'm now 27, going to be 28. My daughter's 11 now. And I think it's very important for me, myself, considering like my intersexuality and my lived experience, that I had someone to coach me and not rescue me. As a care leaver, just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. And I feel like, luckily for me, I was placed in a foster placement where it was led with empathy and love rather than understanding. My foster carer, always tried to overstand and understand my experience. Having someone at a young age coaching you while you have a young person, well, a baby depending on you, is really crucial, because I didn't need saving. Had I have been saved, I don't think I would have had the capability to achieve or potentially be as resilient as I am, and as sympathetic as a mother as well, and empathetic when it comes to my young people. So as I did say that, I have a youth board that I run every month, and I do find myself being a mentor to my young people. And it's really refreshing to not rescue them, but to coach them. Everything we do is youth led, and it's so rewarding to see them really amplify themselves. Sometimes other people see your light before you do, and they will either try to dim your light or help you shine. And that is a big key to coaching for me. I feel like, having conversations, allowing, people to live in their purpose. You might be the hero in your story. Sometimes you're the villain in others. So it's just kind of grasping that concept of, you're not here to save everybody. You can bring a horse to the water, you can't force it to drink. So just looking at the slide, sometimes when we adopt a rescuer stance, we undermine the young person's agency and autonomy. So by problem solving for young people sometimes and doing things for them, you are making them feel like they're not capable, they're not independent enough. I know for me, myself, my daughter is always saying, you're so protective, you're overprotective. And sometimes I have to take a step back, because that's my trauma, that's my lived experience, and she isn't currently living that. So I have to, coach her to overstand and understand that there will be things in life that will happen. But it's not what you go through, it's how you handle it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I always say there's a million ways to skin a cat. It's also about, creating dependency rather than capability. Sometimes when you're consistently rescuing young people, they're looking to rely on professional intervention, and as you may or may not know, as a care leaver, resources are sometimes limited. Sometimes, you know, waiting like on the NHS, sometimes, you know, if you have mental health issues, it could vary up to 6 months. So, you know, sometimes people need the coaching there and then. Sometimes to rescue someone, it may take longer, and sometimes you just don't have the time to wait to be rescued. So I know that I'm really conscious of time, and I'm a bit
fine. We're fine. We've got time.
okay. Cool. I'm also a musician. I'm a poet. I sing. I rap. I write. I do everything, and that for me has been my therapy. And I've created a spoken word kind of piece that I'm going to say to you guys after, but I just wanted to leave some of these with you. Sometimes you hold belief when others doubt themselves. So sometimes when you hold belief, like, oh, you know, I don't know if you can do that, or I'll do that for you, you're creating that self-doubt. You know, sometimes people's reaction is, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's going to be hard. That vibration isn't necessarily what we need. You walk alongside, not in front of people. So you're meant to be assisting, not resisting. I tend to rhyme words, but you know, you're meant to assist young people, not resist them from their purpose. You know, you're there to assist them and help them with their mission. And it might not always align with your mission. You honor people's stories by understanding every experience has shaped resilience, but it's not defined by limitation. So you're not limiting your young people. You're saying, okay, cool, we have a problem. What's the solution? Once you find the solution, you're halfway to solving the problem. You amplify potential in others by inviting them into their own power. Sometimes your power is reminding people of their power. So I always say that, like, my power is reminding people of their light. Sometimes you just need someone to brighten your light. And luckily for me, I've had the experience and the networks, and you know, I've been absolutely privileged to be in certain spaces, but that's because, you know, I've had coaches, not just a coach, but coaches in life. People either show you what you want to be more like or less like. Either way, they're still coaching you into something. You build capability, not just a quick fix. So sometimes we're always looking for quick fixes as care experienced young people, but sometimes you need, you know, to build that resilience, that idea, that structure of, you know, you can do. Yes, it may rain, but there's also sunny days, there's also spring, there's also leaves to fall and grow back. It's all an experience. It's all part of learning and you know, overstanding life. So I didn't have long to write this, so I'm just gonna go with it. So you amplify potential in others. You invite them into their own power. You build capability, not just a quick fix. You foster resilience because they learn to navigate rather than rely on someone else to navigate for them. And you respect dignity, their ownership of the outcome, their growth, their individuality. You hold belief when others can't yet see what's possible. Sometimes people see the light in you before you do. You create space, not solutions. Not just solutions, space for someone to think, someone to breathe, and try to have the courage to try and try again. You listen beneath the words. To the story beneath the story, there's more to the surface. Sometimes it's within purpose. You walk alongside, not in front. You don't need to lead them out. Help them as you may find them on their way. Your purpose isn't theirs. Assist, not resist. You ask, not tell. You trust, not take over. You offer curiosity instead of just judgment, compassion instead of control, unconditional love instead of conditional. You mirror back strength, showing them what they already are. Everyone is a projection or reflection of you. Because when you coach, you rescue, you restore. You restore belief, you restore choice, you restore connection. Coaching care leavers isn't about stepping back. It's about stepping differently. Stepping in a world that isn't your own, but is just as sacred as yours. It's about standing in the space where potential lives are holding hope with your help until they can hold it themselves. That's what changed lives. Not the fix, not the form, the faith to care, to listen. Plant seeds, they will grow, even a rose from concrete. Sometimes we listen to respond, not listen to hear. Sometimes all we need to do is hear the problem and allow solutions to flow. Hear the reality and allow space for change and new perspective. You may be the villain in some stories, but you have to be the hero in yours. Lead with coaching, not commotion. When we slow the noise, people can hear their own voice. Connect before correct, but always come correct. Thank you. That's it.
Wow. That's a lot, Louisa. We're going to have to write that out because
I have, yeah, I'll send it.
we're going to have to send that round. I mean, it's a pretty hard act to follow. But really, I think you've captured it all so well. But and there's quite a lot of evidence behind what we're talking about, and what Lucy would have been able to amplify, which we didn't even want to attempt to try and talk about, is all of the research around the drama triangle, and being a coach, not a rescuer. And it's a technique that's used by coaches around the world. So we can, I actually am going to share in the chat a little video that you can watch that really talks to that sort of the context that we're building upon in the examples we're giving. So if you want to sort of see the more technical stuff that Lucy would have been able to talk about. But really, I hope that we have taken you through in this Whistle Stop tour a real insight into how you can support all people, actually, but with a particular focus on those with care experience. And really, at this point, it's over to you guys. Have you come with questions? Have you come with issues that have crossed your desk that you would like to pose to us? Because we're very much here for you. But I think the takeaway is, however tempting it is, don't just step in. Sit back, listen, and ask the person that you're supporting what the answers are that they have to look for. Ask them the question that Judith left us with: what should you do about it? And while I'm speaking, I've seen that Alison's put a question. Oh, I know she's sharing a story. Thank you so much for sharing her story about what really has led her to become a lawyer. So perhaps we can chat more about that. But I think she's just really echoing that Louisa's words are far more powerful than anything I'm about to say or try and capture at the end of this webinar. So does anybody who's joined us today have any questions for us? Is there anything you'd like to ask us? I really like Louisa's talking about not just understanding, but overstanding and innerstanding. Everything is perspective. So thank you. And also, I mean, it's somebody else's words. It's Foucault, isn't it? Knowledge is power. But actually giving young people the knowledge to solve their own problems is very powerful. People putting something in the chat. We'll wait till we have some questions. Alison's question is, what happens when you know there's a time pressure and the young person isn't doing anything? how often do you go back to them and push them to do something or help them to follow up? I suppose, Alison, first of all, I'll just come back to Judith's example. She sort of gave a deadline, didn't she? She said, I'm going to come round in a couple of days. So she gave a bit of a bookending, you need to act quite quickly, and I'm going to come round if you haven't. So she was the scaffolding, because that was an example, wasn't it, of coaching. So she wasn't putting it completely on the young person. She wasn't expecting them, leaving them without any support, but she gave them a window in which they were able to solve their own problem. So that might be one thing to think about, is creating a bit of time pressure beyond that the situation is creating. I don't know, Louisa, if you have any other examples there.
Yeah, I think I always use these words, consistent and persistent. I think when you're being consistent and persistent with your young person, just because they carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. We all have different coping mechanisms. It's going back to that coaching stuff. Sometimes you have to coach people through life, through how to respond, how to react, because a lot of the time these young people are on survival mode. They're not necessarily living life. They're reacting to life. They're still pretty much in their trauma. So it's going back to not what you do, how you do it. And I did see as well another one saying that, how would you politely but assertively suggest active listening to school staff? You can see answering too quickly for pupils, or passively listening who are trying to speak their feelings. So again, not what you say, how you say it. Being trauma informed, I feel like these are conversations that I have across the board. There needs to be more care aware training and just trauma informed training in general. Terminology. So again, listening to hear and not to respond. Sometimes responding quickly, and it really does put the young person off, because you got to remember, even psychologically, when people are saying their traumas, they're reliving their traumas. So it's like, how do you create that safe place for them? So you have to really make people understand these are people's lived experience. I understand you might be passionate about it, but this is their story. Allow space for them to tell it, and then maybe intervene after.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sophie, one example is it's a sort of active listening technique that Judith was referring to, of when a young person starts to open up, that you echo back what they've said. So you try to repeat what they've said in their own words. And so if you happen to be in that professionals meeting, if you are there, one of the ways in which you could model active listening is that if you're there to support the pupil, then you could say, just if you could give me a moment, I'd like to just capture what Louisa has just said, and try to have taken a note and repeat it back in their own words, because then you've slowed it down, and it forces everybody to really actively listen to what you're saying, because you're repeating what's been said. And hopefully that would be a technique you could introduce. But again, much bigger systemic cultural change in the environment that you appear to be working in, where you would perhaps encourage professional training in care aware and trauma informed approaches to working with students. And then the next question, Louisa, is how do you promote a coaching approach where you've got a really disengaged and non-communicative young person? I mean, my first question is that, imagine what is probably going on for them. Or in fact, I don't think you even need to, but don't think of that as an active choice, that they are shut down because of that. That would be my first point.
For me, again, it's for me, terminology is very important. So even us saying, when someone's disengaged, are they disengaged, or are they depressed? Are they upset? Are they going through things? And I always say your mind doesn't know when you're joking. So just kind of, I think terminology is important, and I always go back to, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. You have to take different approaches with different people. I do not always take the same approach with everyone, because I understand everyone's got different lived experiences, different cultural differences. We're not, sometimes we're going to agree to disagree, but it's about being neutral and really meeting people at a common ground. Like, look, I can understand you're disengaged. You don't want to, you don't want to do this, but meet me halfway. What do you want to do? Why do you feel like this? What will help you be more engaged? And I think by answering them questions, it really does open up a safe place. I feel like we often forget as human beings, if we're not in a safe place, we're often not ourselves. We're not going to respond in a healthy way. We're not going to respond in a safe way. So it's about creating that safe place for that young person. And just to quickly move on to what Lorraine said, again, that whole being triggered by past traumas. For me personally, I missed quite a lot of education, and I was told, I wouldn't be a lawyer, I wouldn't do all the things that I do now, which is, obviously not the reality of the situation. But it's about, again, overstanding that, the weight that the people carry is heavy, just because they carry it well, and maybe turning that trauma into something positive. So if your young person has had, bad experience with education, how can we make it fun? What's going on for them? Like, how can we get them involved in youth boards? If you're young, your foster son wants to get involved in my youth board, I'll be more than happy to involve him. There's other young people. It's just about really finding a way to heal our traumas. We're never ever going to be healed, but it's a way to proactively heal our traumas. How can we turn our trauma into something positive? Like, how am I able to now go through what I've gone through and now positively speak about it, speak about coaching, speaking about all these things, because I've had the resources and just the humane connection from people to allow me to have a safe place, so I'm able to amplify myself. And I think if we do that for our young people, it really is thing. So I'm reading the comments as well. I'm very aware of time as well.
Yes, sorry. I was just going to pick up, Lorraine. I think you'd get a lot of support. 16 is quite. Sorry, this is one of my children trying to ring.
Yeah.
So the point that Lorraine has made, of course, we'll do absolutely everything to try and help your 16-year-old become a barrister. Gary Green has been suggested. He's at Doughty Street. 16 is quite young to get work experience in the courts. Most courts will ask them to be 18 now, but getting involved in advocacy and opportunities like Louisa's board, fantastic. There may be other work experience opportunities. Lawyers Who Care starts at 18, but it's very happy. I'm Kate at lawyerswhocare.org. Get in touch and we'll loop you in with urban lawyers, Gary Green, Louisa, build up a good CV, and he will, I'm sure, fly, because he's had a wonderful foster carer in you. Do you want to pick up on the next question, Louisa?
Yeah. Sorry, love that. Your mind doesn't know when you're joking. Yeah. And there's also a book, I always promote this book. I don't know why I haven't written it, but there's a book called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. And it's basically how our emotions manifest into diseases. So really understanding like how your emotions can physically affect you. So also considering that with young people, what they're going through emotionally, how that can physically affect them as well. in my third year of law studies, and I regularly got told I will never be a solicitor or barrister because of what I've been through. However, I'm trying to stay focused. It does knock your confidence, most definitely. And I have, been through my own trials and tribulations. I'm going back to study my third year, September, because I missed my exam, because my brother passed away. But again, these things do happen, and it's not on, everyone else's timing. It's literally God's timing. It's not about, oh, I'm this age, I should accomplish this. It's all about your timing. So don't ever let anyone knock you down for your experience. I completely resonate with Louisa. Spent time in care as a child, and then in a hospital at 15. So-called professionals can be obstacles. Definitely, definitely. And that's why you should use your experience to help change other people's experience, because I know the care system and I've indulged in it and I've experienced it. No one will know it better than me when it comes to being that 15-year-old young BAME black woman with a child, a single mother, trying to be a lawyer, them obstacles in the way. So what better person to do it but myself? And you should also have that light and that power about yourself.
So Sasha, I don't know if you've heard Lucy Barnes, our co-founder, speak, but she was told, when she mentioned that she was care experience, confided in someone, she was told, well, we're not there with gender, we're not there with race, don't for a minute think that we're there with care experience. So I wouldn't mention it. And she applied for pupillage and was not successful. And then she just felt that actually that was her true story, and she talked about her care experience in her subsequent application. She talked about the context of good but not amazing A-level results, but achieved while working 2 part-time jobs in order just to survive. And that made her achievement much more outstanding. And then she was able to talk about what she'd overcome in terms of her care experience to get through law school. And funnily enough, when she did mention it, she did get a pupillage, and I met her head of chambers and I last week, and they're absolutely thrilled that they were able to interview and see the potential in Lucy. And she is already she was taken on straight away as a tenant at the end of her pupillage, which is the training you do to become a barrister. And I have no doubt she will one day be a KC, which is a King's Counsel, which is a top barrister, because she is a talented person. But on paper, she didn't quite have the stellar academics that some of her peers would have had. And actually, the context of explaining that she had care experience gave her actually an advantage. Some chambers, such as mine, will ask you to talk about any adversity you've had to overcome, and they will give you sort of a contextual we have contextual marks in order to sort of give you extra marks if you've had to overcome challenges in order to get to where you are, in terms of applying to be a pupil barrister in that example. So that stigma, that is stigma that you're facing, and that is exactly why we set up Lawyers Who Care. So it's not just about breaking down the barriers to getting you work experience, to getting you into the workplace, but it's also about recognizing the stigma that's existed for far too long. And I just remember my best friend when I grew up, her father used to describe himself as a Barnardo's boy, and I never really knew what that meant, but he felt a real sense of shame to have grown up in Barnardo's foster care. And I think he also wasn't always treated very nicely, and that really, he'd internalized that. So that's the intergenerational messaging that's gone on, and there will be people who think, well, we don't want to take on somebody care experience because they will bring with them additional emotional baggage and they'll be difficult to assimilate into the workplace. But that is now absolutely unacceptable. That is prejudice, and that is what we've got to counteract, and that's why we have Lawyers Who Care. And there are all these fantastic chambers and solicitors firms who've signed up to say they want to offer mentoring opportunities to care experienced people, because actually what they see is that these young people are talented. They'll bring diversity and a huge set of untapped talent to their workplace. And so believe in yourself. We believe in you, and you, of course, you'll become a lawyer, solicitor, or a barrister, whatever you choose to be. Becoming a barrister these days is hard. Getting pupillage is like, you know, I've said it's worse than getting Glastonbury ticket. It is really hard, but you know, and many people apply for year on year on year, but they do get there in the end. And if you don't get there through the conventional route of doing a pupillage and then becoming a tenant in chambers, you might get there by being a higher court advocate, going through SILEX, which is another way of getting your legal training, doing a solicitor apprenticeship. Barrister apprenticeships are coming down the pipeline. You can be an in-house HCA is a higher court advocate, so you become a solicitor and then you do additional training, I think I'm right in saying, in order to be able to do basically exactly the same job as a barrister. And you also could be an in-house barrister, so again you would get paid to do your training in-house, and you may have you know, the supportive structures of being salaried, and perhaps in an organisation that is able to support you in a way that maybe a smaller chambers wouldn't have the resources to do so. So there are many opportunities, and I'm sorry that messaging has been given to you, but that's why we're here, and that's why we're changing things. Now, I'm not quite sure when we were supposed to finish, but I'm conscious that it's 7:10 and people may be keen to get on with their evenings. Do we have any further questions? I'll put my email in the chat. But it's been a really wonderful evening, and thank you so much to Louisa for stepping in and for her spoken word. We'll have to write that down and share it. If you give us permission, Louisa.
Yeah, that's right.
And hopefully it will make it into a published book one day, because it really is.
I'm writing the book, so I'm in the middle of writing the book, so yeah.
Just amongst other things. Amongst the many other commitments.
Taking over the world.
Yes. Well, again, I'm going to bring the webinar to an end. It's been a real privilege to be with you all this evening. I hope you have found it helpful. It might be just the beginning of a process for you, rather than an end point. It may not have answered all your questions. It may be that you have to sit with the approaches that we've shared with you. You may have to try them. It may not always work first time. It may not be comfortable with the way you're used to working, but really think about taking a step back rather than being too quick to step in, reflecting back what the young person is saying to you, and asking them, what do you think you could do about this? What do you think you should do about it? Give them the skills to solve problems in the future. And with that, you will be coaching them towards success. And thank you for the time that you're giving to these young people. They're very, very lucky to have you. I think, I don't know, Ronnie could be either way, but we're mostly women this evening. So in celebration of women, thank you for your time. And just very quickly, Lorraine's put Hampshire County Council training, the big behaviour triangle, talks about the drama triangle, and worth looking at Winner's triangle in as a positive way forward. So thank you very much. Yes, the little link I gave you is a 3-minute video that I think probably captures what you've just described, Lorraine. So, but thank you all. Really lovely to meet you all, and do follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Do you want to stop recording? Okay.
Was it me?
Yeah.